video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him.
Yep, this is it. This is what I'm gonna make my first video about. Shut the fuck up. This is what I'm making a video about now.
You said that worship is when you prioritize and sacrifice for something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a hierarchy in there.
This is a book move, you know, standard opening, makes sense. Asking your interlocutor to explain what they mean is a very good practice in general to do, especially when it's someone like Jordan Peterson, who, well, you'll see.
Sure. So I prioritize and sacrifice for my wife more than I would prioritize and sacrifice for a random person on the street, right?
Probably, yeah.
Presumably. Do I worship
I don't know,
my
I've
wife?
seen some pretty bad marriages.
Assuming a good marriage, are you saying I worship my wife?
Once again, Gerard is just spitting fire on the track like it's nothing. This dude cannot be stopped. It's just impossible. Yeah, it just sort of makes sense for him to ask this follow-up question. It's important to get definitions straight, and if he's actually to get this part straight, then it's just sort of weird if it were to mean that he was worshipping his wife by Jordan's definition.
I'm trying to define worship.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So prioritize and sacrifice. I do
the
those
higher
things.
it is in the hierarchy, the more what you're doing is akin to worship. But even in your trivial acts of attention, you're prioritizing and partaking in worship, even if you don't know it.
Okay, so this is where you would expect us to have a solid definition of what Jordan was saying, right? Like, he's admitted, well, not admitted, he's explained that you can worship things that aren't at the top of his hierarchy or at the bottom of the foundation, depending on how you see it, of course. So we have a definition, right? So we can work by that definition. Yeah, let's see how that works out.
So I am
And it's partly, well, with regard to your wife, say, so why do you value your wife? You do value your wife.
Yes, I love her, so I prioritize and I sacrifice for her.
Right. So that's within the confines of love, let's say.
Sure.
What else does it serve?
What else does what serve?
Your love and your marriage.
Yep, don't mind me, guys. I'm just trying to get drunk enough to the point where I wouldn't notice the massive turn away from the point that Jordan Peterson is currently making. No, seriously though, this is textbook deflection. Jordan Peterson's point here should be to try and prove that Gerard either is or isn't, depending on what he wants to do, worshipping his wife because he is attending to, sacrificing for, and prioritizing her over other people. This is worship by his definition, but he doesn't want to hear that. He doesn't want that to happen, right? So now he's deflecting from the point because Gerard is cornering him. Simple.
I mean, I'm married to my wife because I love her. That's also why I prioritize and sacrifice for her. Right. I certainly wouldn't think I worship her, and I don't think anyone else would make that.
I'm
Are you
trying
making
to
that
make
claim?
a definition.
Okay.
Yeah, that there's a hierarchy of attentional priority, and as you move up it or down it, depending on a foundation, you move more towards worship. Right, so even the small things, I'll give you an example. Imagine you go on a date. Well, imagine that your aim is a long-term relationship like a marriage. Okay, now imagine that your aim is short-term sexual gratification. Your pattern of attention is going to vary during the date, depend on your ultimate end. That's the hierarchy. The way that you attend to your wife is dependent on your ultimate aims, even if you don't know it.
Believe it or not, this is fine. No really notes. This coincides with Peterson's logic, so him saying this makes complete sense. It's not necessarily, like, bad.
So at what point is it worship? Because it sounds like you're saying worship is almost a spectrum, right? It's not a binary, it's not a
It's kind of like, that's a good question.
When is it worship as opposed to just, I love my wife?
The closer you get to the top or the bottom, the more it's more like
How
worship.
close to the top? Because I don't think I worship anything. And if you're saying I have to hit a certain threshold for it to be worship, it is possible I don't worship anything then, right?
Actually, here, Gerard is kind of in the wrong when it comes to his assumption that you'd have to hit a certain threshold. It's not that you have to hit a certain threshold with a thing. It's that that thing has to be comparatively to the other things higher, by Jordan's definition, as far as I can tell. I could be wrong, but anyone could be wrong when it comes to Jordan Peterson saying anything, honestly. So this is just my interpretation.
It's not possible that you don't worship anything.
What do I worship?
Because you wouldn't attend. Well, love.
So you think I worship love?
Do you attend in consequence of love? See, I'm trying to define something. What do you mean worship? I told you what I meant. What do you mean?
So what Peterson's doing here is, at least as far as I can tell, I could definitely be wrong, but it seems like he's shifting the burden towards Gerard to try and prove that he doesn't worship something, which is a negative. Proving a negative is nearly impossible, and it's not his burden of proof right now. The burden of proof is on Peterson to say that you cannot not worship something. More specifically, he isn't trying to shift the burden of proof as a burden of proof onto Gerard. He is trying to shift the burden of proof onto Gerard and transform it into a burden of explanation. To explain what I mean here, to elucidate my meaning, I'm going to give you a metaphor. In this metaphor, you have a roommate and they have not done the dishwasher as was agreed at this time. You then tell them, what the hell? You were supposed to do the dishwasher, you were supposed to clean the dishes, and then they say, oh, yeah, I didn't do the dishes. I'm sorry. How about you go do the pot over there by hand? Now, this is analogous, as far as I can tell, because it is your roommate distracting you and trying to make you do the work for them by saying something similar. More specifically, they are saying something similar with a similar word to you, which is, in this case, love, but in the metaphor is dishes. It is do the pot yourself by hand, and in Peterson's case, what he's doing is, I don't know, I've given you my definition, what's your definition? They are trying to make you do the work, and Peterson is trying to make Gerard do the work for him.
So I mean, something you worship is something that you have a reverential view for in a manner in which you believe it to be above and beyond normal things you like. Like you
So do you
presumably.
have your wife?
I have that
Do you
attitude.
privilege her compared to other women?
Of course I privilege her compared to other women, but I don't worship her.
I would put actual money down on the fact that Jordan Peterson is about to flip-flop from his definition to Gerard's just to go back to his own.
Nor does she worship me.
By the definition you just offered, yes, you do. Because you just offered a definition that involved prioritization and elevation.
Well, and thinking that she is divine above and beyond what a normal natural phenomenon can be. Not other women, no, beyond any human being could ever be. I will prioritize her over any other human, but I don't think that she is some
You're making the
being.
assumption that only the thing at the top or the bottom has anything to do with worship. And I'm saying that's not true. It's a hierarchy of prioritization. And there's either something at the top or the bottom, depending on the metaphor, or you're fragmented and confused.
Where my money at?
Those are the only options.
So let's say
you're either going in many directions,
okay,
or you're going in one direction.
So let's suppose I'm fragmented and confused. Then you agree I don't worship anything.
No, then you'd worship multiple things.
So what's the threshold when it's worship, right? I prioritize a lot of stuff.
I said that the closer you get to the pinnacle, or the closer
How close?
you get...
Can you give me some sort of metric? How close do I got to get to this pinnacle?
Do you know the difference between cheap literature and deep literature?
Yes.
The difference between cheap literature and deep literature is typically seen as the following, where deep literature is typically seen as less broad and more focused on one topic, more layered, focused, and oftentimes more quality. And cheap literature is the opposite. It is less layered, more broad, and more all-in-seeing as to what its audience is. All-in-seeing is not a word. It is simply a term that I came up with to make sure that you understood what I meant.
Okay, that's the same issue. And how do you distinguish between them? What's the difference between cheap and deep?
I mean, it's really an opinion-based thing, right?
Is it? So it's just an opinion that Dostoevsky is better than a porno magazine?
Literally speaking, yes. The answer to whether or not a pornographic magazine is better than a Dostoevsky book is a subjective question and will have a subjective answer. This is whether I, or Peterson, or you, or your grandma like it or not. More specifically, this is because an answer to this question would be a mind-dependent opinion and not an objective, brute fact of the universe.
I've spoken to people who think To Kill a Mockingbird's cheap. It's one of my favorite books. So, I mean, people will differ on opinions.
Well, just because people are stupid about things doesn't mean that their opinion is valid.
That's certainly true. I agree with that.
Okay, well, do you think there is a hierarchy in literary quality?
I think that there is a hierarchy to an extent in literary quality, but I think once you get to a certain threshold, it is just opinion. Like, I agree. Dostoevsky is better than a porno mag, but is F. Scott Fitzgerald better than Ernest Hemingway? I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Why do you think that?
Because of what a book is, what literature is. Dostoevsky, he follows what literature is the purpose of more than the porno magazine does.
Good. Well,
so it's about purpose and definitions.
Sure. Let me give you an analog then.
Okay.
The depth of worship is analogous to depth of literary significance. And the closer you get to what's deep, the more religious and worshipful your practice. And maybe you don't know what's at the bottom, but something needs to be, or you're confused.
This is just real quick catch up. This is just, again, the definition that Jordan's given. It's, once again, top, bottom, peak, foundation. It's simple. I'm just putting this in here because I wanted to relieve you of the stress of listening to Jordan Peterson by showing you a cheetah cub.
So to use your analogy then, how deep do I have to go for it to be worship? Do I have to be Catcher in the Rye? Do I have to be War and Peace? Or
it depends on what you're seeking for.
I'm seeking to know whether I worship something. You've claimed I worship something, and I want to know.
If you want to have a deep and meaningful life, then you have to go all the way to the bottom or the top. And insofar as you're capable of doing that, because otherwise you'll be fragmented and miserable and anxiety-ridden and hopeless.
So I have to worship something to have a meaningful life. And if
There's no difference between those two things.
Okay.
They're the same thing.
So if I don't worship anything, my life will not be meaningful, correct?
Well, that's the definition of nihilism.
Correction. The most commonly used definition of nihilism is a philosophical position or stance which either does not entail any meaning intrinsic to life, or a philosophical position that asserts that there is no intrinsic meaning to life.
Okay, so if I'm a nihilist, I don't worship anything.
That's true, and then you...
okay. You just said everybody worships something. I think you've just agreed there is a class of people that doesn't.
Imagine getting verbally bitch-slapped in a debate this hard. Like, straight up. Gerard just cocked back and hit him as hard as that one guy in every boxing gym who continuously swears that he only does light sparring. No notes, perfect refutation. Absolutely props to Gerard there. To explain how absolutely amazing this refutation was, I will go into detail now. Now, Peterson defined a nihilist as someone who does not worship something. Or, exactly said, a person who does not worship anything. But his claim in this conversation, or specifically his claim in this conversation with Gerard earlier, was that everybody worships something, even if they don't know it. This would include nihilists. But the issue there is that he said that nihilists do not worship anything, per his definition. Therefore, he has bluntly contradicted himself, and Gerard caught him right in the middle of it. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, they're incoherent in their worship.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry for not finding a cute video or picture of an animal, right, to play while I'm saying this, but this man, Jordan Peterson, is not worth it at this point. This is probably the last, voiceover I'm doing on this part of it. Like, this man is the hypocrite of the century. You know why? In another part of this video, he says, quote, "I don't care about common parlance," unquote. This man is out here complaining about incoherency while literally not caring, according to himself, about common parlance, which is effectively simply saying my words mean exactly what I want them to mean, no matter what. He could say the word pineapple and mean the word toucan, and that would technically count as him not caring about common parlance. This man is not the right person to criticize someone else for being incoherent. He's the most confused and indirect person with his speech that I think is possible under modern societal conditions. Not my grandma, not an old person or young person with dementia, though young people barely ever have it. Not anyone else. It's Jordan Peterson, folks. Jordan Peterson.
And hand gestures like that aren't going to help.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Look, if you're incoherent and fragmented and aimless, which is what happens if your objects of worship are unstructured and chaotic, then you're going to be anxiety-ridden and without hope.
I mean, like, I hate to be that guy, but, like, source and citation, please.
That happens. That's a technical argument.
But there's happy nihilists.
Oh,
How do you explain that there are happy nihilists then? Because
well,
you just said they
the
can't
mere
be.
fact that you state that there are happy nihilists doesn't make it true. Like, what's your evidence that, how do you measure nihilism and how have you associated it with happiness? And what's your definition of happiness? And have you compared them to religious people? Because if you do, by the way, it's clearly the case that religious people over the long run have better mental health. It's a well-documented fact in psychological literature.
Sure.
So your claim is just a claim.
No, this is just a classic Peterson. It's basically a Gish Gallop along with what do you define X thing as, right? The thing is, every single time that Peterson gets cornered, and you'll see this if you watch the Jubilee video yourself as well, he's very likely to either Gish Gallop or ask 55 different questions about definition in the span of 2 minutes. And, like, that's just sort of not the right amount of time to do that. Like, no one's going to spend 10 minutes on definitions when you have 15 minutes to debate. Like, this is, once again, just textbook Gish Gallop, which is just his main way of obfuscation. So keep that in mind whenever you watch a video with Jordan Peterson in it, I guess.
Doesn't stand on anything.
So you disagree with the claim that there exists even one happy nihilist?
I didn't say that.
Okay, would you agree there exists at least one happy nihilist in the universe?
It's not a question that has any meaning as far as I'm concerned, because it depends on what you mean by happy, and it depends on the duration that you're trying to calculate over. Now and then there's probably some deluded soul who thinks he's a nihilist who's momentarily pleased with himself. But as a long-term strategy to deal with the future, to get along with yourself and with others, it's sadly lacking.
Sorry, but what did this man just say? Hold on, let me replay the clip real fast.
Long-term strategy to deal with the future, to get along with yourself and with others, it's sadly lacking.
Yeah, no, fuck this shit. That's all the Jordan Peterson I can handle for one video. See you guys next time, I guess. Also, enjoy this little outro that I made for you guys.
It's just hard to even imagine. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you give a man a rat, you satisfy his rat desire. If a rat plays Monopoly with another rat, and rats do that, by the way, like lobsters, the little rat will always lose. That just shows you whose side God is really on. Then the losing rat will yell at the big rat, because he's the big rat, which inevitably results in mass genocide, which is what a rabbit would do.